On this episode of the John1911 Podcast, that was one hell of a deal on the Galil Ace. An engraved buck knife, Dix takes it up the ass, and the Mexican death mask tattoo. Okay, good morning, everybody. This is Marky and Freeze, and this is belated episode 117 of the John1911 Podcast. How was your night, Freeze?
Busy. I think the hospital let everyone on the 7th floor go home for Christmas because every lunatic there.
Kind of losing you a little bit. You kind of breaking up just a hair. So say that again on the 7th. So for people that don't know, here in our city, the 7th floor of the state hospital is the loony bin floor.
Yeah, it's the psych ward, and I think everyone went home for Christmas, and of course, you know, half the patients there home happens to be under a bridge, but oh man, they were out in force last night.
So when you were working last night, did you see Britney Spears walking down the street with a shaved head, losing her mind?
Oh,
if someone's listening to this and they're like, what are they talking about? If you watch the news, like in California, and some crazy person like Britney Spears or is it Heather Locklear now has lost her shit? Like they put them on, in California, they call it a 5150 hold. In our area, if they were the equivalent of a 5150 hold, you end up on the 7th floor of the state hospital.
Yeah.
Well, it's that time of year, so.
Yeah, 'tis the season.
Well, speaking of crazy sons of bitches, did you hear about the school teacher that was fired because this person told their students that Santa Claus isn't real?
Okay. Yeah, let's talk about that. So you've got a liberal hippie-ass teacher in New Jersey, no doubt.
It turns out I'm looking at it is New Jersey.
Who decides to tell, I don't know, what was it, first graders or something like that? That Santa Claus isn't real. But you know what? This is a classic example of the last decade we've lived through where all these fucking liberals have been able to say whatever they want with no repercussions. Well, guess what? Your actions have consequences. And the consequences here is you got your stupid ass fired because you told a bunch of first graders Santa's not real. Everyone knows Santa's real.
Hey, you know what? It's like, look, I mean, this is really no different. This is no different than the bullshit we're hearing. Maybe it's cold outside. And look, if you want to go there, it's cold outside, and the same don't say dick shit about the rap music that's been going on for.
Yeah, I mean, exactly. You're 100% right. You know, all this baby, it's cold outside. I mean, that song was written in the 40s. And, you know, I mean, what are they calling it? A rapey song or something like that?
I guess.
I don't know. I haven't really paid much attention to it, but okay. Where is the outcry of these rap songs that literally actually talk about raping women?
Well, if you think about what the song does, all right, it's a guy putting the moves on a girl and she's saying no and he's persisting. So that's rape. So if you're in high school and you ask a girl out and she's like, well, you know, and so you start pursuing her. Oh my God, rape. Now I know I'm kind of stretching it a little bit there, but it's like this entire argument, you know, against this song, it's just made up political bullshit. And again, I know you don't like rap. There's a lot of rap music. I actually really like it. But I mean, you know, so I'm not like, you know, someone's listening to this, be like, I'm just an old white guy. And, you know, of course I don't like rap music, you know, I mean, you know, I do. A lot of it's really good.
That would be me. I'm the old white guy that doesn't like rap music.
Yeah, and it's
I do. I mean, now
you don't like it because you don't like it, not because you're a racist.
Exactly. I mean, I just find it shit.
Hey, you know what? Wait a minute.
But then again, but to be fair, I categorize country music in the same category as rap. I find it to be shit.
I'm not generally a big fan of country music either.
But that's okay if you like it. I just don't like it. I mean, I'm not going to war against rap or country because I don't like it. I don't really give a shit what you listen to. I don't listen to it because I don't like it.
Mm-hmm. But this is kind of like, I can't help but feel this is just another reason to kind of shit on an institution and to shit on, like some traditional value thing and, whatever. Like, I'm just curious. Here's a question. Our friend who I shall not name, who is from Kenya.
Yes.
I mean, I think it's Kenya, right? He's from Kenya, right?
I believe it. I believe Kenya. Yes.
Okay, and he's.
I mean, I'm not going to swear 100%, but I'm like 98% sure.
I'm like 90% sure he's from Kenya. Does you're kind of breaking up on me again? Does he like rap music? Do you know?
I honestly don't know, but I do know that he's not overly fond of a lot of Black Americans.
Yeah, that's a whole separate conversation we're not going to have.
But but I mean, look, does he like rap music? I don't know. I honestly don't know what kind of music he listens to.
Yeah, I would personally be surprised if he was a rap music fan. I just get that vibe off the guy. Not.
I'll tell you what, that was one of the coolest weddings I've ever been to. Was his wedding?
Yeah, so but just the idea that like everything has to be like in these silos or these slots. So you went to this wedding that the groom was from, I have to say the words right. The groom was from Kenya and the bride was born in the United States, and so there was an actual. Kind of like like if you go to a wedding where they have like a dual service wedding.
Yeah, they had an African, I don't know, witch doctor, not a witch doctor, but I don't know. They had an African religious guy.
Yeah.
And then they had
maybe a shaman. Is that the actual? Because here's the guy from Kenya is actually from a tribe. Like we're not talking about a guy who like he didn't live in a grass hut. I mean, maybe he did, but I don't think he did. But I mean, he's part of a tribe. Like there's a king and like a structure.
Yes. Yeah. As a matter of fact, the king of the tribe was at the wedding. Believe it or not. And strangely enough, he has no political power in the tribe. Kind of like England.
He's like the Queen of England.
Put
the mace on the fucking table and shut up.
But anyway, then there was a minister there. I don't know what denomination.
I would venture to guess Church of England. I'm just going to go out on a limb. I'm going to go out on a limb. Can you hear?
But it was kind of cool because they had an African tribal band, where they played on the drums and stuff and played the traditional African music. Plus they played, well, not the African band, but then they played, they had a guy doing like, I don't know, some kind of like country, modern, not really country, but like more of a modern country pop type music there. I mean, it was a real diverse.
I've heard of that. You'll see, I was somewhere maybe a year or two ago, and there was a DJ. You could hear the DJ playing, and it was like dance country. They had taken country songs and overlaid techno beats to it.
Nah, it wasn't a techno thing.
And it was country, but it wasn't tech, but it was not like my dog died, my horse left, my wife is eating the oats.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. It wasn't that kind of country. But I tell you what, it was really interesting. It was real diversified. I found it interesting. And, most weddings are boring as hell because most people don't go to out of their religion weddings. Like me, it's like it's either a Catholic wedding or, occasionally, a Baptist wedding, depending on the relative, But, this was actually just a really out of the way mixed up wedding, as far as the different cultures and stuff. I found it interesting. I enjoyed myself.
And I brought that up to prove a point. The left and the liberals and the destroy everything crowd, if it's something that they don't like or something they don't get or something they don't care for or something they perceive liked by the quote other side, if they can find a way to destroy it, they will go after it. Here's the thing. You don't like rap music, but you don't want to fucking ban rap music. You don't give two shits how these people talk.
No.
No. As long as they pay their taxes. If you have to pay your taxes, they better pay their taxes.
Exactly. Reminds me of a story years and years ago. I worked with this guy. He's a black guy. And him and his girlfriend were having a party at their house. And he's just like, man, why don't you, when you get off work, why don't you swing by? And I'm like, sure, no problem. It's like, I'll swing by. What the hell? And I was joking around with him. And I said, out of curiosity, am I going to be the only white guy at this party? And he looked at me and he laughed and he said, yeah, actually you will. He's like, but that's okay because I'm the only black guy in my apartment building. He said, so it balances out. I'm like, okay, fair enough.
That's funny.
True story.
Hey, I want to change gears here. Remember that gun that Century came out with called the VSKA? The quote of the American-made AK. Did you hear what happened with that?
You know what? I did, but I didn't really pay much attention to it.
So basically, if I could summarize it very quickly, James Yeager is buddy with Century. Like, they're tight. To the point that people accuse James generally likes Century stuff, and people generally accuse James Yeager of shilling for Century. So James is like, that's not it. Hold on, that's not the meat of even the story. I'm setting the background. So he gets a couple of these AKs, and he's like, look, I want American-made AK. They sent me these. I don't shill for Century. I'm not a Century butt buddy and whatever. So they had this big old hoo-ha with videos, and they invited all these YouTube channels to come down, and they filmed this thing, and they tried to do it scientifically. They had two of them, brand new. One of them was a control, because you have to have one, scientific for science. You have to have a control example that you don't shoot. And then they had the one that they were going to shoot, and they were going to run, I don't know how many thousands of rounds through it, like in a session. And they didn't even I don't think they even made it 1,000 rounds. What ended up happening was, I guess you know this better than me. Haven't you put AKs together?
Yes, I have.
Now, when I see the AK builders classes, there's always like this little, you'll see it. There's always like a little like press, there's some kind of machine that's vertical that they have to lay the trunnion into the receiver and press it together like with a machine. Yeah,
because that they're basically pressing rivets and stuff together.
And so all that shit, I guess, is riveted and drilled and pinned. But apparently what was happening was they were putting in, when they would start, they would, put in like the headspace, like, hey, here's the gun we're going to start shooting with. And they put the headspace measure, is it headspace, not headspace, field or whatever to start, so they could then, shoot it a bunch and then come back and check it. Well, it wasn't head spacing right, I don't think, right away. and they realized the barrel was moving forwards and backwards in the trunnion, or the whole it was moving a little bit, and they were like, what the fuck? So then they took the control gun and tried to get it to, whatever, and started running it, and immediately it started moving. And like, I mean, Century, these guns look like they could be borderline dangerous, and it was devastating. But it was so funny because James Yeager, because he's kind of not a shill for Century, but they are his buddies. They treat him well, and he looked at the camera, and bless his heart, he actually said this. He goes, well, at least now they don't send me hand select guns.
Well, okay. That's actually good. Look, is James Yeager a shill for Century? I won't go as far as to say he's a shill, but come on. I mean, let's be fair. I mean, he basically jerks Century off a lot. And look, don't get me wrong. I love Century.
Oh, you're a huge Century fan. You love Century.
I do, and I've been dealing with Century for 30 years.
Yeah,
but I'll be the first to admit, Century's put out their fair share of shit.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, look, they put out some good stuff, and I mean, like I said, my favorite go-to rifle is a Century rifle. I mean,
oh yeah,
my
VZ.
Yeah, that's a Century gun. I love Century, but I'll be the first to admit that just because it's branded with Century doesn't mean it's a fucking home run. It can be a fucking turd. Now, I'm not going to say everything they put out's a turd, and I'm not going to be like the internet fucking keyboard commandos, if it's Century, it's garbage. No, not necessarily. It could be, but not necessarily. Some of their product is good, some of it's not. But I will say this, Century products from 20 years ago, opposed to Century products today, it's night and day. They've gotten better with age.
I actually I look at Century relative to, I put it on a sliding scale. So, for example, I would love to have a 223 caliber roller lock HK type gun. But you know what? I don't want one enough to spend $4,500 on one from HK. But those $600 to $800 ones from Century look real tasty to me.
Yeah.
Just as a reference gun.
Sure.
Why not?
Exactly.
Mm-hmm. Let me tell you what. Speaking of deals, I don't think I sent you this. Who's the guy? They call him. What are they? All the Milsurp guys hate him. Classic Firearms, the big guy.
Oh, Sweaty Bill?
Sweaty Bill, they call him Sweat. So vicious.
Look, I love Sweaty Bill. I'll be honest with you. I'm the only CNR guy out there that doesn't hate Sweaty Bill. But before you go on with the story, let me for those that don't know who Sweaty Bill is.
Yeah.
The reason all these CNR guys hate Sweaty Bill is because CNR guys want shit for nothing. They've got a CNR license. They feel they should pay wholesale prices. Well, Classic Firearms is not a wholesaler. They buy wholesale from the same place that if you have a CNR, you can buy them too. But because they have buying power, they get better deals than the average swinging dick who's going to buy one rifle, get it, and say, oh, there's a scratch in it, and send it back. So Sweaty Bill buys these lots, and he sells them at retail. And CNR guys, when I say CNR guys that have a CNR FFL, hate Sweaty Bill because they hate paying retail. But at the end of the day, Sweaty Bill's a businessman, and frankly, I think he's a damn good one at that.
Dude, I bet you Classic Firearms is making more money than just about anybody in the industry right now.
I'm not going to even argue that with you.
They are monsters. Check this shit out. Here's a couple of things, a couple of points. Just as an aside, okay, we have a good friend of ours. He's actually going to come over here to the armory today with this Scar 20S, the big sniper Scar, and he got one because some of the guys on the team had gotten one, and they have a contact, and they got a decent price for from this dealer, this high-end dealer that they all know. And Classic Firearms sent out an email like 2 or 3 days ago with SCAR 20S's, and it beat their email price, beat the price that the SWAT guys are paying locally, and they're getting a break. And you want to know why? Because Sweaty Bill is buying them fuckers by the pallet, and he's I bet you Classic Firearms sells 100 guns a day, maybe 300 a day. They fucking hammer the guns out.
Yeah, they probably do. Let me tell you something. When Sweaty Bill releases, and I call him Sweaty Bill because that's what the haters on the internet call him. So I'm following suit. When Sweaty Bill releases a YouTube video featuring what they have, because they're big on, social media, the odds are by the time you actually get the email saying that the video's uploaded, if you go watch the video and go to order, a lot of the times they're already sold out.
Yeah.
Unless they have a huge lot. Well, but a lot of the times they get small lots, and he tells you, and he'll lay them out on the table. We've got 30 rifles and this is what they are. And he does like a 10, 12, 15-minute video describing the rifles. And by the time you watch it, if there's only 20 or 30 rifles, a lot of the times, if you want one of them, it's gone. How
much you want to bet Sweaty Bill helped facilitate putting SOG out of business?
Oh, no, I no argument there. SOG's been a shit company for years.
Mm-hmm. They fucking kill it. Now, let me tell you the story I don't think I told you about Classic, because I don't want to get too far afield yet. Classic Firearms sent out an email. It was earlier this week, and I literally was like, fuck. They had the Galil Ace in 7.62, the AK Galils.
Yeah.
They had gotten a bunch of them, supposedly as they got them as the company was selling them as blems. They were factory blems, and you couldn't see shit what the blem was. $900.
Oh, I bet those went like immediately.
They went, I literally was like, the only reason I didn't buy one is not 2 days earlier, we had bought a Gemtech Integra suppressed upper in 5.56, which was $2,000, and we'll get it in a year.
Yeah, I didn't say anything when you sent me the link, but it's kind of like I had mixed feelings on that. Mixed feelings it's like, Jesus Christ, why the fuck did you do that? But then the other side of that coin is a year from now when we get it, I'm going to be like, fuck yeah.
Well, here's the thing. The problem is you can't get these goddamn things. You can get them in 300, but everybody wants them in 5.56, and some of them had popped up. You can only get them through Silencer Shop. Gemtech only sells them through Silencer Shop. So I got an email over the summer. We were in the middle of range construction, and I saw it, and I was like, well, you know what? Let me think about it. I need to get one. They're in stock. I got the alert. And I waited a day or two and went back, and they were gone. I was like, okay. And I started looking around. I'm like, okay, I'm ready to buy. And I was looking around, and I couldn't find one anywhere. And I kept checking and checking and checking Silencer Shop and everywhere, and nobody had one. And I'm like, son of a bitch. So I signed up for the alerts, and it's been almost 6 months. And I got an alert at like 11 something at night. And I literally was like, oh, crap, I got to buy this. Because I expected literally if I waited an hour, they were going to be gone. I'll check here in a little bit to see if they're gone. But to go back to Classic Firearms.
Oh, I wouldn't even bother checking. Damn good and well they're gone.
Oh, the Aces, yeah, they're gone.
Yeah.
And the thing is, look, there's a rumor going around. See, look, these guns, they looked new to me, and I think they look new to everybody as well. The rumor is that there's a company supposedly in 2019 that's going to bring in or put together a Golani, the original Galil. Now maybe the Golani's the Century one, the original Galil, from a parts kit, and they're afraid that it's going to compete. It's going to undercut the Galil Ace. So the word is that they might be trying to blow some of these out to reduce their inventory before they get hammered on the price on that.
I'll tell you what, that doesn't shock me. I mean, there's a lot of guys out there. There's already jigs. I saw a guy who built a Galil off of a parts kit. And I was going to send you the link, but I got busy.
You sent me pictures of he put the markings on it. You did send that to me.
Oh, yeah. Okay. Did I? Because I didn't think I sent it to you. But what he did is he got these stencils with all the original Israeli markings on it. And when they welded that receiver up, they laid these stencils on it and acid etched it. And that thing looked like $1 million. That thing looked phenomenal. And a lot of guys are doing that. Well, when I say a lot of guys, you know, I mean,
what's happening is there's enough money being made. What happens is when parts kits, when there's enough demand that people start building parts kit guns, eventually somebody goes, well, fuck you, we'll just do bulk, and we'll do them in series. We'll make hundreds of them, and then we can beat everybody's retail price on these.
Yeah. And
we're getting to the point with the Galils, the original Galils again, because actually Century had some, they made some years ago, and you can still find them. They're like $800. And that's I think if they run, it's a hell of a deal.
I think the Century Galils had a few issues, nothing major. Okay. They had, remember like the Century VZs, they had the trigger issue. Do you remember that?
I know that the VZ's got that like that striker system, and I know that can get kind of offset.
Well, anyway. Okay. I call it the VZ58 because it's a copy, but it's actually the VZ2009. That's the actual Century designation for it. But what it is when they put them together, some of them had trigger issues. Mine has not. But what happens is there's a little bit of play in it, and I'm not going to go into a deep dive, but it's the trigger and the sear and the spring where it all connects together. If it moves, a few thousandths, I don't know, to the right or to the left, it binds up and you have problems. And you can put a spacer in there and fix it. It's an easy fix. Some of them have that issue, some of them don't. Mine does not. But if it ever pops up, I know how to fix it. It's a real easy fix. But I think the Century Galils, I'm getting a little off around the bend here, but the Galils, I don't remember off the top of my head what the issue was, but I believe they did have kind of a little glitch where some of them had hiccup problems, which was fixable. But let's go back to the 1911 guys. You have to be able to self-diagnose. If my DZ has this issue in the future, I can break it down and fix it. Where a lot of guys out there, let's face it, man, a lot of guys are like, oh, this is shit. It's binding up. Send it back. Okay, well, you can do that, of course. And I'm not saying that if you buy a brand new gun and you're having problems, not to send it back. But my thing is, if I know the cure, I'm going to cure it myself. And I mean, you can make the argument, well, I shouldn't have to cure it myself if I spent good money on it. And that's a valid argument. But rather than to send it back and get another one and maybe have the same problem, maybe not have the same problem, or they fix your gun and send it back, you know what? I'll just fix it myself and save myself about a month's worth of back and forth time.
Well, look, the truth is when you're dealing with a Century product that they actually put together, not import like a Canic, like Century brought Canics in.
Yes.
Realistically, Century's bread and butter is for the collector enthusiast market, not really for the user, whether like you carry a gun for a living or you carry a gun for serious work. Because most of the time there's milsurp rifles. There could be bugaboos in those things. And they're not really, if you're a person that basically can't even do basic troubleshooting, and I'm pretty intolerant of issues with guns. compared to you. But a Century, even I'm like, yeah, it's a Century, but it comes with a Century price. It's like you can get a Galil for like $800. I mean, try to put one of them sons of bitches together right now. You're going to be knocking on the door of like $1,700-$1,800. You could have the same fucking problems as you do when you do the $800 one. So it is what it is.
Yeah, no, I mean, look, it's just one of those things when it comes to Century. Look, if you're a guy that everything has to be 100% perfect,
yeah,
go buy an H&K.
Yeah.
I mean, seriously, spend $2,000 to $3,000 depending on what you're buying. Buy an H&K. You're going to pull it out of the box. It's going to run like a champ. It's going to be flawless, and everything's going to be fucking unicorn tears and bull jack off. And that's fine. But if you're budget minded or collector minded, or just need something to play with, and you don't mind a hit or miss type deal, or you can tinker, if you're a guy that can build, that can do a build, then you can, any problem Century has, unless it's a major issue like with these AKs, you can probably fix it yourself. Then go for the Century gun. But look, if you don't like the fiddle factor and it's not worth your time, effort, or energy, then don't buy a Century. Buy a SIG, buy an H&K, buy something else. You're going to spend a lot more money, and that's fine. You just have to understand, don't try to go cheap. Don't try to buy Century and go cheap and expect H&K quality.
Yeah, Century's not for the average gun person. They would disagree. They're trying to be, but they're just not. They're for
Century's an importer. I mean, and they're getting into the gun bill. I shouldn't say getting into it. They've been doing it for years. But they're going that route, and there's nothing wrong with that. But you have to understand that you're going to have problems, but these are problems that come with a lower price point.
Mm-hmm. So did we talk about the Brownells 1911 from Ed Brown?
We talked about it in private, yes.
Well, the reason I wanted to talk about that, not that I want to talk about that, Ed Brown is making a gun for, it's Brownells, right? It's not Cabela's. It's Brownells.
It's Brownells, yeah.
And it's basically executive target with the Brownells roll mark on it. And, that's cool. You're getting Ed Brown quality. And so and I know how Ed Brown works. And, they make a lot of stuff for a lot of other people. And, it's a way for them to make some money and, not dilute their brand officially, because, they'll be like, why should I pay this for real Ed Brown? But I was looking at that, and then I saw, let's see here, just make sure. He just typed this in real quick before I said it on the podcast. I about passed out when I saw this. Let me see if this is true. Okay, here we go. All right, so I remember talking to Ed about this about a decade ago. He had asked me my opinion on this. So Ed Brown, in my opinion, Ed Brown has a problem. They're trying to address the problem because they need to stay with the times and always have to have new products. But, we're like Wilson and Nighthawk, and then now there's all these other companies that make high quality 1911s. They come out with all these crazy ass guns, where Ed Brown was always kind of like, Ed Senior was always like, it's my way or the highway. I'm not going to put my name on a gun that I don't fucking believe in. But they were always real hidebound as far as like, they're not going to do like Mall Ninja guns.
He had the Henry Ford theory. You can have any color you want as long as it's black.
Yeah, and it made a lot of money. But so what they did, and they're getting, now the boys are running it, and so now you see all these like the FTX with all these lightning cuts, and it's not really the same Ed Brown philosophy that it used to be, which is fine. I mean, they have to survive and make money, but they're selling. Here's the thing. So I saw this. This Brownells gun. It's a great thing. Ed Brown and Brownells go back way back, and so they're selling a buck 110 folding knife. And if anyone that knows what a buck 110 is, I've got one. I had one as a kid. It's like got a wooden handle with brass top and bottom ends. And what they've done is they've had it engraved, the brass, to match the engraving on their engraved guns. Their stock price on it is $4.99.
Well, okay. When I saw that, I'm like, really? You're going to charge $500 for a $50 knife? And I'm talking $50 at full-blown high-end retail. You can get them for $30. Okay? And I'm like, okay, but it's engraved. So, you get a little, you're going to pay a little bit more for it, I guess, because it's engraved. But $500? I mean, it's not like it's a high-end brand. It's a buck.
It's a buck knife.
Which there's nothing wrong with buck, but it's a buck knife. It's not a high dollar knife as a rule. Okay. But then I did a little bit of research and I found an engraved buck 110, and the engraving looked almost identical to the Ed Brown engraving because, it's just on the ends. So there's really only so much you can do when it comes to engraving. And I found one I think it was like around $150.
Okay.
And it's like, I still wouldn't pay $150 for an engraved, I guess they're called bolsters. I wouldn't pay $150 for a 110 with engraved bolsters, but okay, it sure as hell beats $500. But hey, I guess if you're going to attack Ed Brown's name to it, yeah, whatever. I mean, if you're stupid and have a lot of money, go for it.
Well, look, so now Ed Brown's blowing them out now. They're on sale for $2.99. And look, I know this. No, but what I know this from literally talking face to face to Ed Brown about this, because he was showing me some knives years ago and wanting my opinion on this stuff. And I was like, yeah, dude, I don't know about this and all that. So Ed Brown is fully aware that there's collectors out there that have more money than sense. He is very keen on this. And so he doesn't lead with it with his marketing. Again, Ed's basically retired.
He's old.
He's got, oh yeah. I mean, shit, we're all getting old, dude. But, because he was so high bound on how he did his guns, because he stopped doing because what it was, he used to do full house custom builds, and it was constantly all these one-off things. Remember, like when we were making t-shirts, you give people too many options and it just fucking crushes you. And so you start limiting the options. And he changed his business model to limit his options. And what happened was all the stuff that was unique or became either low selling, low quantity sales, or was no longer made, increased in value to the collectors. And so he started out the back door kind of catering to this kind of mentality. And that's where this knife shit comes from. And so, if you're the kind of guy that's going to have like a fully engraved gun that's never even been racked, and you handle it with your cotton gloves and you put it under glass with some light on it, you're the kind of guy that would take a buck 110 for $500 and mount it right beneath it, because it's a set now. Because you know how collectors are, it's a matching set. Yeah. And I just saw this and I was like, God almighty, fucking really? I'm gonna have to get a picture. I'm gonna get up my old 110 and take that was like the first like real knife I had as a kid. Like my first big knife. I still have it. It's in the armory somewhere. I was just like, man, whatever. Oh, speaking of going, fucking shit up, did you hear what happened to Dick's?
Yeah, I did. And I'm so happy about that. I mean, not that I didn't see it coming.
I didn't see it coming. I didn't think they were going to fucking, cut the closed stores.
Well, but you know what though? Okay, now I didn't see him closing down an entire chain.
Well, yeah, they were talking about, does they own Field and Stream?
Yes.
And are they talking about closing Field and Stream?
They're talking about shutting Field and Stream down. But look, here's the thing with Field and Stream. Field and Stream is basically an overpriced Dick's. They want to be Cabela's, but they're not quite Bass Pro Shop, but they're more expensive than Dick's. You described it perfectly, because I took a road trip to go to one once, and I was like, I'm not going to fucking come back here. It wasn't worth it. Exactly. I went to the Field and Stream when it opened, our local one, and it was like, So look, the thing is, they made bad choices, and it's coming back to bite them in the ass. It's not unlike the New Jersey school teacher that told all the first graders that Santa Claus isn't real. There's consequences to your actions. They made bad choices that pissed off a vast majority of their customers. And when you do that, there's consequences. And the consequences are they're losing an entire chain. They're losing an entire revenue stream, and they're basically putting thousands of people in the unemployment line. Thank you very much, anti-gun dicks.
Well, especially when you factor in who we just talked about, Classic Firearms, because it used to be one of the places you would go. You'd go to your local gun store, your little mom and pop shop. Then you might hit the big box store to see what was there. But the thing is, there's a reason when you go to a Dick's, there's a reason why the guns are all the way in the back. It's the same reason that the grocery store puts the milk all the way in the back, because they want you to walk by everything else to maybe buy something else. So if you stop going in the Dick's to buy guns and ammo or shit you need, you have those less impulse buys to pick that other shit up. And I'm surprised that a sophisticated 21st century, storefront retailer, made that mistake.
Yep. And when Dick's made that decision, we discussed that on a podcast, because we discussed what they were going to do with their firearms and stuff, if you remember that.
Oh, yeah. Didn't they? They cut them up, and then they ended up getting sued. Was it by Daniel Defense? Didn't Daniel Defense? Yeah, because they had a contract with Daniel. I think it was Daniel Defense to buy X amount of guns, and so I think they broke contract. And then they didn't even want to. And then I think they virtue signaled. Well, then they tried to play it off as they had these guns, they couldn't return them. So instead of blowing them out to like another wholesaler, like Classic Firearms, it would be a perfect example, they did a virtue signal and said, we're going to cut them up because we don't want them in circulation. And that really pissed off a lot of people, because it was like, first of all, you're lying because you're full of shit. We know you're cutting them up because you can't fucking return them. And the second thing is you're rubbing it in our faces. It's one thing if you don't want to sell fucking AR-15s, but you don't have to be a dickhead about it.
Yeah, exactly. And you know what? It's the chickens coming home to roost, as the saying goes. And I'm happy to see it. I mean, I'm sad for the thousands of employees that are going to be out of work. I'm sad for them, but on the other hand, I'm actually happy that Dick's is in financial trouble and they're going to have to shut down an entire chain.
Yeah,
I'm totally cool.
They'll shut down Field and Stream. I don't think Dick's itself will go out of business. They'll just become.
Dick's isn't going to go out of business, but they're going to cut their losses. I mean, if you got to cut a revenue stream, you cut the one that's not doing the best, which is Field and Stream.
Hey, speaking of cutting your losses and trying to adjust your revenue stream, have you heard what's happened with the quote the migrant caravan that's on the southern border? Did you hear the latest?
That's so insane. That is insane.
So and I'm putting it in terms of money because these people, everyone was getting paid for this. Okay, this all cost money. Like, it costs money to move these people. It costs money to pay for the gas for these fucking people. It costs money for the shitters. Everything costs money. None of this was free. And then it got up to the border, and a lot of people, they were made promises. We're not going to let you in. We're not going to do this. We're not going to let you create these video memes, like Elian Gonzalez with the fucking MP5 and the kid in the closet with your bullshit camera. They tried to do it with the one woman with the little girl with no shoes on in her diaper. And, which was, yeah. And, so that all fell apart. So now the ones that are still there, they sent out a communique that said, we want $50,000 a piece from the U.S. government to go home. It's like,
well, you're not coming in.
Yeah.
But we don't care if you go home because you're not here. Right. You're there.
Because as far as I can tell right now, the only person associated with Donald Trump that's giving out money is Stormy fucking Daniels. So,
hey man, I'll tell you what, the only guy in America that's made a whore pay him.
So wait, this is awesome. So he paid her money for a deal. Basically, shut your mouth. Well, she went him basically for blackmail. He paid her off. Here's a deal. They signed a deal.
So he gave her like $200K?
No, I think it was 150 or 130.
Okay, well, she's got to give him $295.
293 is the number I read. Yeah.
Okay. So anyway, basically, he gets double his money back.
That sounds like you know what? You're right. I didn't think about it like that. That's what Donald Trump ran on, making money.
Exactly. Hey, you know what? I'm going to pay a whore, and she's going to give me my money back double.
Oh,
yeah.
Man.
Winner. Motherfucking chicken dinner.
So this is like a real world kind of thing here. Like, this is the real world politics of this. So all these people that pretend that they care about Stormy Daniels, and let's say they're super liberal, okay? And let's say they want to give her money to show up at their dinner or host her at their nightclub or whatever, however Stormy Daniels is making money. Are there people now on the left who were inclined to pay Stormy and promote Stormy and give Stormy money because it put her in the media, but now they don't want to give her money because they know the money's going to Trump? I think it's going to hurt her business. There's going to be people like, I don't want to. If you hate Trump so bad that you're thinking, if I give this girl $1, she's got to turn around and give it to a person I think is Hitler, you're not going to give her $1.
No.
And she's so desperate, dude. Did you hear what happened at the strip club? She showed up at some strip club, and I guess she's got a couple people like her team, and I guess one of them is gay, whatever. So they show up at this club. She's got this, which would make sense because, like there's dressing rooms and, a gay guy can more easily enter, because, it makes sense. So supposedly she had a fit, stormed out of some strip club she's supposed to dance at, and accused the owner of being like a homophobic bigot or saying something anti-gay, or she's insulted. So all of a sudden she's got principles, and she marched out of the strip club and slandered this guy.
She's got principles, really?
And, which, it's fine. Like, everyone's got to have a line. That's fine. And so it almost seemed like she's literally gearing up to like sue this dude. And of course she didn't do her homework. She probably was the good idea fairy. I'm sure he probably said something crappy, because everybody says something crappy in the strip club because it's a strip club.
Yeah,
and he comes out and he's like, what the fuck are you talking about? I never said this kind of shit. And oh, by the way, I own fucking gay bars. Fuck you. And it's just like, wah, wah. It's just like,
that's another Stormy fail.
Oh man, it's just like, Donald Trump is unbelievable. I mean, he is just, I just can't, like, I get more enjoyment out of Donald Trump than, like, I tell you what, I enjoy Donald Trump more now than I enjoyed Saturday Night Live in 1977. Back when Saturday Night Live was funny, Donald Trump is the new Saturday Night Live. You know what I mean? It's like, every week is like, wow, what's going to happen this week? Hey, I have some bad news for you on your pecking order of big dick sizes in the hunter community. You went down a notch. An Illinois hunter backed a 51-point buck. Dude, I saw that headline and I was almost afraid to open it because I was afraid whatever that picture would be would scare me so bad that I wouldn't be able to sleep. I'm like, what the fuck does a 51-point buck even look like? To me, it sounds like something out of Aliens where its mouth opens up and fucking, and inserts an egg into your stomach. I mean,
oh man, I'll tell you what. I saw that.
I was disappointed, dude. I'll tell you what, you hunter guys, like some of those points, I'm like, okay, I guess that's a point.
Well,
let me find it. Go ahead. I'm listening.
I mean, look, okay, if this scores right, and it probably will, it will literally be the largest buck point-wise taken in North America. And that's amazing. I mean, it really is. That's amazing. It's definitely.
Here's what they say: an Illinois hunter's 51-point kill may be one of the quote largest bucks ever shot in America. I can't say his name. Keith Stabalski of Johnson City shot and killed the deer in November during the first weekend of the shotgun season. So he actually is a shotgun hunter. Apparently, let's see, I was where's it said here? State conservation officials have since told the man that the buck, which weighed roughly 265 pounds, that's a big buck, dude. I mean, that's a full size.
That's a huge white-tailed deer.
Because I think on the farm you hunt on, they had one 300-pound buck once. Wasn't there a 300-pounder once before it was field dressed? Didn't somebody pull a 300? Wasn't it your son-in-law?
Yeah, his knocked on the door at 300 pounds. The biggest buck I pulled off there before it was field dressed was like 265. The buck I have hanging in my living room, field dressed with no guts at like 205.
Yeah.
And that's a big deer.
It's a big deer. So here's what they're saying. State conservation officials have since told the man that the buck, which weighed roughly 265 pounds, could have as many as 51 scoreable points. Let's see, that's 4 more points than a world record-breaking 47-point buck, which was shot in 2016 by a hunter in Tennessee. The owner reportedly plans to take the buck's antlers to an Illinois Deer and Turkey Expo in July. There, a panel of judges will again score the animal and officially determine if it broke the record. I mean, when I read stuff like this, I always kind of wonder, it's like, oh, it's the biggest buck ever taken, bigger than this, bigger than that. I always can't help but think, Daniel Boone may have shot a buck that no one ever saw because there wasn't TV. I mean,
I
can't help but wonder.
No, I mean, I know what you're saying. It's hard to say what was. Look, I guarantee you, 100 years ago, 150 years ago, 200 years ago, there were deer taking. Okay, 200 years ago, guys were feeding their families. There weren't these big, massive hunting seasons where thousands of deer were killed every year. I guarantee you there were some monster bucks taken that we will never know about. You know, I mean,
well, sure. That's kind of like what I just kind of wonder, things that, like let's say if you let all the bucks run and overpopulate and do whatever for like 200 years, what would pop up out of some woods in Missouri or Ohio? And you're like, holy shit, dude. Yeah. I'm like, exactly. I'm curious what the average full blown mature big ass horn buck looked like in 1776 versus one in 1976. Because didn't we almost wipe out all the deer in this country at one point? I know in Ohio we did.
Actually, I mean, I can shoot deer all the live long day in my backyard, but in the 50s, if you saw a white-tailed deer in this area, you were shocked. There were no deer in this area.
I think a lot of people today don't realize that. It wasn't like Teddy Roosevelt and like they all, all those hunters and conservationists that created the national park system and, like the fair chase rules and, all this kind of stuff. What was happening was people were just slamming the shit out of everything because you could sell the meat. So people would go and just shoot deer left and right and sell the meat. They were just gunning everything down. And so there was no management. And so in lots of parts of the country, there were no goddamn deer.
Deer in this part of Ohio were basically almost hunted to extinction. Not extinction to where they don't exist as a species, just in this area, Yeah. Due to conservation, it was brought back. So let's go back to 1776, where you had you didn't have the subdivisions, you had wide open forestry. You didn't have a massive people population, and more importantly, you didn't have cars. Because I'll tell you what, as many hunters that kill deer, dude, cars take a heavy toll on deer.
Yeah.
And and let me tell you something. When I was in my teens, deer hunting, you saw some big deer out in Indiana where I hunt.
Mm-hmm.
But the population was a lot lower back then than it is now. Well, and then what happened is in the 90s, when the population exploded, they started giving like wholesale slaughter on does. Like it would be, you get one buck tag, but you could shoot like, 3, 4, 5 does. I mean, it was nothing to get, to be able to get multiple doe tags, So what guys were doing is they were shooting does. I mean, like there was no tomorrow. I mean, it'd be nothing to go out there and shoot, 2, 3, 4 does, between being able to buy extra doe tags, between the property owners getting deprivation permits. But what happens is if you shoot a budding buck, it counts as a doe because, if the tines are less than 3 inches long, you can't necessarily tell it's a buck. You shoot it as a doe, you can check it in as a doe. Well, what happened is there were so many bucks being shot as does because they were young or they were buddings or little small spikes. All of a sudden, you stopped seeing big rack deer because they were all being killed. All the bucks were being shot. Well, then when they backed off of that, and they curbed it to where you could shoot a buck and maybe 1 or 2 does, then you started seeing a comeback, and then you started seeing bigger and bigger racks. But for about a 10-year period, 8 to 10-year period, you stopped seeing, I mean, not that there weren't big racks being shot, don't get me wrong, but you stopped seeing a lot of large racks because basically, I mean, you weren't just thinning out the does. I mean, you were shooting a lot of bucks that potentially could have grown into 3 and 4 year old bucks if they wouldn't have been shot as a doe.
What factor did the coyote population moving into the area? Was that also like all the hunters shooting the does and then the coyotes come out also killing them?
No, you know what? Let me tell you something. When the coyotes came in, they came in around the same time as the turkey population. The turkey population exploded. The deer population exploded. I didn't see a single factor. But you know what I did see? The rabbit and the quail. Out there in the part of Indiana where the range is and where we deer hunt, there's next to no freaking quail out there. And when I was younger, man, there was quail everywhere. And rabbits, same way. There was rabbits and quail everywhere, and they're pretty much gone. And that's
what?
The coyote.
That's 2 points on that. The first thing is I have to think about it. I do not recall ever seeing a rabbit on the range in a year. And the second thing is I was talking to a guy. He's a very wealthy man and billionaire. And he has his own hunting property, and he was showing it to me. And he's a big upland bird hunter. He's a gun guy, but he's more of a bird hunter. Wing shooter, and so he pays to have all these animals brought in, like but he pays for quail and like all he pays for he'll buy him by the dozens and dozens and have him put out on his farm and stuff. He was like, well, maybe you should think about doing it on your range, and I'm like, yeah, I don't know about you, but the fucking coyote, I just buy. I don't want to pay money to feed the coyotes,
and that's what you'd be doing. I mean, look. It would be
you put them in for a season to shoot them, but then they wouldn't they would take over and you'd actually have an ecosystem because the coyotes would just eat them.
Exactly. I mean, I remember, when I was in my teens, I was, 15, 16, 17 years old, walking out to my deer stand, and it's still dark. And, and you're walking through either bean fields or corn fields, that have already been cut. To get to your stand, and it'd be nothing. I mean, you'd be walking through there and you'd jump a covey of quail. And of course they'd all take off and flap and, and you about shit your pants, because, it's dark and all of a sudden you got quail bouncing off you,
Yeah.
And I mean, that was like every morning. And here's the thing. You're walking to your stand and it's going to happen. You just don't know when it's going to happen because you can't see anything. It's dark, And I mean, it was just, and then again, same with the rabbits. I mean, not that you jumped rabbits, but I mean, you'd see rabbits out there all the time. A neighbor, actually the guy that owned the farm that the motocross track's on, we'll go with that.
Yeah.
Him and his brother were big rabbit hunters, and during rabbit season, it would be nothing for those two guys, during an entire season to shoot 100 rabbits a year.
Wow.
I mean, because rabbits were plentiful, and it's not like they hunted out the rabbits. The rabbits were plentiful.
That almost seems too plentiful. That seems like that's true either. That's a lot of goddamn rabbits.
There was a lot of rabbits out there. I mean, it'd be nothing to sit up in your deer stand. Like right now you watch squirrel. Well, it'd be nothing to watch rabbits and squirrel,
Yeah.
But the thing is, but the crazy thing about that is when the coyotes came in, the rabbit and the quail went away.
Yeah, and the coyotes have just exploded. I mean, basically now, if you want to do small game or varmint hunting, you're doing coyote hunting now, because that's about all that's left.
Yeah,
and everybody wants you to shoot them now. Even places that supposedly you can't hunt here because it's illegal. All of a sudden, Fluffy gets eaten, and all these hippies that don't want to hear about hunting start calling around to the cops and everybody, hey, can you come here and shoot these coyotes? Are like, nope. Can't fucking do about it.
Yeah.
You passed the fucking law. So it's interesting.
Yeah, I know it is. But what the crazy thing is the turkey population, exploded, and apparently the coyotes are not taking a toll on the turkeys.
When we first, we had a lot of turkey on it, and I think I kind of pushed them off because we did a lot of work, and I was curious. I was like, well, I mean, I didn't know. I guess turkey do a good job getting away from coyote. That doesn't seem right to me, but I'm not an expert on coyote or turkey.
Well,
but I just was surprised.
Here's the weird thing: turkey roost in trees, but they lay eggs on the ground.
Do they roost in trees?
They do roost in trees.
Because I was seeing a lot of it must have been where they were laying eggs on the ground, because they had worn an area to dirt when I was walking with the agent. We'd humped our way all the way to the back of the new range before I bought it, and it was obvious it was turkey.
Yeah,
I'd never seen a thing like that on the ground before, and I was like, well, what the hell is that? She's like, that's turkey, and I'm like, really? Okay.
Yeah, well, now look, you probably did displace the turkey population with all the dozer work, and in the pushing of the trees, but here's the thing, give it a year, and the turkey will be back. I mean, they'll be back. They haven't, they're not gone. They just moved off because you've disrupted the habitat. But you know what? In effect, the truth is you've disrupted the deer habitat as well. Look, all the dozer work out at the range has disrupted everything: the coyotes, the deer, the turkey. But they just moved. I mean, they'll be back once things settle down.
Yeah, we got to let the range heal up and all that. So
sure, yeah,
we've been going long, and we have to get to the crime segment of our podcast, because we got to keep these things, and we keep having the damn internet drop. So, I was bragging before we went live how we got the new mesh system. Well, now apparently they're on construction out on the road, and they must have chopped the fiber optic, because literally we've lost all internet in the armory. Like no internet in the pipe now. So I'm like, great. Do you want pick your poison? Do you want to do shoplifting or samurai sword?
Oh, see, both of those are really, really good.
Well, because normally shoplifting, unless you know which one I'm talking about.
I think I do.
Okay. It's a trick question too, because these are comparably interesting stories to the.
Let's do shoplifting.
Okay.
You're breaking up really bad.
Okay, it's because I'm using the cell phone. Mugshot of Ohio woman with unique face tattoos goes viral after Walmart shoplifting arrest. This is like a Greek tragedy. It's got Walmart. It's got face tattoos. It's got shoplifting. Hell, it's even got Ohio in it. So Alyssa Zabrowski was arrested Wednesday after she allegedly shoplifted from a Walmart in Boardman Township. Her mugshot has since garnered media attention due to the pronounced tattoos on her face. What appears to be a spider's web is stretched across her forehead, while skull-like features surround her eyes, cover her nose, and can be spotted on the sides of her face and on the skin above her lower lips.
Okay, here's what they're not telling you. They described all of her facial tattoos in a roundabout way because they're trying to be politically correct. But
she looks like Skeletor.
No. Here's all you got to do is go into any shop that sells Day of the Dead merchandise. The Mexican, the Mexican holiday, Day of the Dead, which is around Thanksgiving. I think it's in early November.
I have no idea what Day of the Dead merchandise is.
Well, it's real popular. I mean, if you just do a Google search on Day of the Dead, You will see skulls and candles and merchandise and everything because it's real popular. And you will see her face on every one of the. Basically, she's tattooed her face to look like a Day of the Dead skull.
You know what? I'm looking at this, and you know what? This is the skull I've seen in Mexico.
Exactly,
right.
Because Day of the Dead is a big. It's kind of like. It's where they honor their dead. It's and it comes.
Is that the one where they pull the people out of the fucking coffins and dance?
Yeah, exactly. And it's like a week after Halloween here. It's like in the.
Does that qualify as a shithole country? I'm just curious.
Yeah, Mexico actually does, but
if you're digging up Aunt Sue and dancing with her out by the trailer, does that qualify you as a shithole country? I just want to know where the boundaries are.
Yeah. But what I'm saying
it's Day of the Dead.
They go the long way around the long way around to describe all these facial tattoos. All they got to do is say she tattooed a Day of the Dead skull on her fucking face. Because if you look at videos of Day of the Dead celebrations that go on in Mexican communities here in the United States or in Mexico, you will see people with their faces painted that look just like hers, except when the party's over, they wash it off.
I can tell you obviously are dealing with a lot more Mexicans now than I did. So
the Mexican community. Actually, to be honest with you, I don't deal with that many Mexicans. I deal with more Guatemalans and El Salvadorians. But hey, to me, they're all fucking Mexicans.
So let me give the follow up to the story for put this under the no shit category. After Zabreski, 27, was taken to the county jail following her arrest, officers there found a hypodermic needle and, quote, small bags containing methamphetamine inside her purse. Oh, shoot. I was wondering where that was going for a minute. Police report. Let's see here. This is the woman's second arrest in recent weeks. She was reportedly arrested in November after legal authorities on a brief car chase. So we will have a photograph of her. On the website, because why not? You see this when you see this woman's face, you're going to be like, yeah, that's the way you want to look when you don't want to attract any attention when you're snatching shit in aisle 6 of Walmart.
Yeah, when I want to be under the radar, that's the face I want to have. It's like, Jesus Christ. See, kids, this is why you don't do drugs. Drugs make you stupid.
Dude, I'm looking at this woman's face. You're right. It's that goddamn Mexican skull thing.
Yes,
I did not. It makes you wonder: is she part of the one of the drug cartels? You think, or is a boyfriend in the drug?
Stupid, because she's a meth head, and it probably hides her sores. Look, here's the thing.
Ooh, you know what? It might actually.
Bottom line.
Let me add this: the other story that you decided to pass on.
Yeah.
The eternal question is:
don't bring a knife to a gunfight.
the other story is: in Texas, if you get in an argument with your mom and you pull out a samurai sword, mom will shoot your ass.
You know what, though? She's a loving mother. She only shot him in the leg.
So this wraps up episode 117 of the John 1911 Podcast. If you want to see pictures of the Day of the Dead shoplifting whore or references to the other stuff we've talked about, go to our website, john1911.com. The web address is john1911.com. And remember, it's all about shooting guns and having fun. Everybody, have a good day.
See you later.